I want to make one last set of comments about the Life Process Program. Um, I've talked about the historical roots of addiction going way back to the last century. I've talked about research. I've talked about the Vietnam War. Um, I've talked about our theories of addiction, disease theories versus the Life Process Program approach. I've laid out some of the dimensions of what the Life Process Program involves. Not a disease program. It's a life evolution program. It believes that you can change. It trains you in certain types of skills and encourages your motivation. It relies and it kindles your own values and your own sense of purpose and meaning in life. It makes you feel better about your time on earth. I wouldn't go so far as to say we're a spiritual program, but we are concerned about larger meanings in life. And so I just want to make one last set of comments about society. And the reason I'm motivated to do that is you live in society, I live in society, your Life Process Program coaches live in society. If things are going bad in society, it weighs us all down. If there are wars going on, if there's environmental degradation, if there's conflict, if there's inequality and people are suffering, those are problems in life and in the world that we don't want you to ignore them, and you can't ignore them. So I just want to talk about some basics to make some kind of a positive input into your worldview and into the world as it is. Society helps people overcome addiction, not by developing new drugs to treat addiction. That's not the way we're headed. We don't think we're going to round up every person addicted to drug and alcohol and say, oh, we've got a drug that's going to cure you. We don't believe that that's the approach that's going to work. We believe in a society, a world where life is worth living. We're helping you to try to develop meaning and purpose in your life. But the world can make that an easier or harder thing to do. To the extent that we're all citizens of the world and citizens of our community, and certainly we're participants in our family, we want you to make a positive contribution to the world, and certainly to your immediate community and your family. We want you to have a positive, optimistic view of yourself in the world. If you're going around with a pained sense of your inadequacies, of your past, if you're feeling that you can't overcome your trauma or your addiction, we feel that's an albatross around your neck. We don't feel that's the best way to approach life. Again, it's all in your realm. We're not going to instill you with some kind of positive belief in life, but we want to encourage you to have an optimistic and positive view both of yourself and of the world around you. So this entails certain kinds of things. As I've described, we hope and we pray that society, that the world can create a livable world. You and I are not going to deal with environmental degradation, except in our own little areas of life. You and I are not going to deal with social inequality, except to the extent that we interact with people and we encourage people. Right now, we're in a little bit of a malaise in society. It's hard to read the newspaper or a magazine article and not read headlines like there's a youth emotional crisis going on in American society. Kids are reporting more and more anxiety and depression. That's true. It's just going up in life. And it has to do, in many cases, with addiction. I talked about how people become addicted to experiences other than drugs and alcohol. What's the addictive experience you most hear about in regards to young people? They're addicted to social media, to their iPhones, possibly to gaming, to video games. By coming to grips with addiction in the broader sense, but in your own life, you will realize, if you encounter that kind of addiction with your own children or friends or the family, you'll realize that this has something to do with both the situation of the world, but with that person's engagement in life. A child is going to become immersed in video games and social media as opposed to exercising or reading or dealing with other people in real time, having friends, eventually having partners. To the extent that they can do that, they're better able to avoid addictions. And we're not only talking about drug addictions. As I said, the most common addiction that people are concerned about right now are social and electronic media. Finally, you may have heard the term deaths of despair. You may be aware that a certain part of the American population, their lifespan is declining for the first time in the last 100 years. It has to do with unhealthier living, some basic physical problems like more heart disease. It has to do with suicide. It has to do with drug and alcohol problems and with emotional problems. None of us can escape from this life, this world. Even if our lives are relatively well off, our children are going to be immersed in this world. If 10 or 20 or 50 years from now, the death rate from opioids is still increasing and people's lifespans are still declining, we don't want that kind of a world, even if we personally are not going to be around in that world. And so, hopefully, the Life Process program will give you an empathy, an understanding, a broader view of the world, so that when you view the news about conflicts and social disintegration and people who are just not making it in our society, you'll understand where that's coming from and its implications for people's lives, including their outlooks on life, their basic health, their likelihood of being addicted to one thing or another, and even to whether they live or die. And so it's a, to some extent, tragic set of thoughts I've thrown out there, but it's part of what we at the Life Process program are doing and what we want you to do. We want you to be fully engaged in life, to care about humanity, to care about other people, the ones you love, of course, your family, loved ones, your friends, your community, but the world as well. So we're trying, with the Life Process program, to have a positive impact on the world, and we greet with joy every one of our clients who tells us how much we've helped them. And we want you to greet with joy both your own individual progress, but the world at large, the earth, the nation, the people you encounter, the opportunities and engagements and activities that you have in front of you. That's what our commitment is to in the Life Process program.